grab a seat. You've been rucking a while. And that's why on the Gear Locker, it's time to talk about my experiences and the controversies of Milsim West Black Sea Storm. That's right, there's been so much buzz online that I think it's time I tell you guys what I actually felt about it. Now, for those who did not know, Black Sea Storm was Milsim West's big Super Bowl event of 2025. It took place over December 5th through 7th in Georgia. Now, before I go any further, I wanted to at least give you guys a little bit of context of where I'm coming from. No, I'm not an MSW shill. Yes, I believe there are other Milsims out there. Not many, in fact, most of the ones you guys know about probably aren't Milsims. But I do have a hand in running events myself. Specifically, Broken Arrow events. The Vietnam Milsim stuff you guys hear me talk about all the time. So from an event perspective, I feel like I can give some valuable insight there. But I've been attending Milsim West for half a decade now, going to 1 to 2 events every single year with KVB, the premier German reenactment impression group in the United States. Now again, I'm not a Milsim West chill. In fact, I do have my critiques, and you'll hear plenty of them in this video. But let's get down to the nitty-gritty. This event was supposed to take place on an open plantation reservation area that was privately owned in Georgia. However, after that venue fell through, Josh Warren figured out a couple of other event venues that we could have gone to. One of them being another plantation area, which truthfully, I would have been very disappointed about. But instead, we got the venue that I think everybody was more than happy with. And this was a 75th Ranger training site, the Colmar Metz Mount site in Fort Stewart, Georgia. So for this video, I'm going to give you guys a breakdown of, again, what happened with me and my experiences and my opinions and the controversy. So if you want to check those out, maybe either wait to the end or skip to the end or whatnot. But here's a quick brief rundown of what I experienced. KVB all arrived at the venue at around 2:30 p.m. and the roads were pretty muddy. The Friday that we arrived rained like hell. It wasn't a full-on storm, but everything that was not fully covered got soaked, which I can imagine led to a lot of people's frustrations. However, we were somewhat prepared and had an overhead tent because, you know, it's the forecast. You can kind of predict what weather's going to happen. So if you didn't know, that's on you. Regardless, we staged and we're pretty much prepped by, I would say, 7 p.m. We did wait out the rain, we hung out, we talked to other people and socialized and whatnot, but we were all set and ready to go. Step off happened, I would say roughly around 9 p.m., although don't quote me on that. That was a very long night because we tripped ambush after ambush after ambush on our very long patrol. From the moment we stepped off to the moment we kind of rested and put our rucks down, it was around 6 miles. People's fish might get a little bit bigger every time they tell the story, but again, this is only my experience. I do know, and that'll come in later in my opinions, some people rucked a little bit more. But regardless, we plopped our rucks down and waited there for about 30 minutes. We did take some engagement and we hit and returned fire to those probes, but then it was time for us to assault the city. Us, along with BDG, assaulted the police station, which if you guys have heard anything about this event, you know this was the hot site of basically the entire event. So it was really cool that we were kind of in the middle of it. We were attached to Robrag and TFM, premier ranger groups in the Milsim West sphere. And I gotta say, I loved rolling with those guys. We assaulted this police station at 3 a.m. and it was just a manslaughter. Absolutely insanely difficult to get in there. But as soon as we breached, it was game over for them. We cleared from bottom to top and took a lot of casualties, defended some counterattacks, and we held that building. We retrieved our rucks a little bit later, brought them back to the PB, and slept for a little bit. KVB stayed on fire watch for most of the time. In fact, there was not a moment that I can think of where at least one of us wasn't in one of the 2 windows that we had covered. And from there, Saturday, it was honestly relatively uneventful in terms of patrolling and getting out there, but instead very eventful on the defending side of things. We took wave after wave after wave of Russian and militia assaults. And I don't think I've been in an airsoft or Milsim experience yet where it's just absolute chaos of 30 to 40 guys rushing at you and you're just mowing them down. It was like out of the We Were Soldiers movie. Kind of cool, honestly. I really enjoyed it, and huge props to all the Rust 4 militia players that did those crazy pushes. Little did they know we were running so dry on ammo that if they probably did one more, we would have lost it. But instead, we got a quick resupply of ammunition and we re-upped on all of our guys and we were ready to roll. Nightfall hit and we remained on guard. Come to about 1 o'clock, us and Robrag did a minor patrol to assault the rear of a PB. I couldn't tell if they were Rust 4 or militia, but we hit them. Time on target was no more than, I'd say, 3 minutes for us, and we rebounded really quickly back to our base because we were expecting a counterattack. Nothing happened. So we started to go back on rest cycle, which was a relief for a lot of us. We did not get a lot of sleep up until that point. I laid down after pulling watch and was ready to get a good nap in. And one of my KVB buddies walked in and he said, "Hey, they're massing for an attack, so get ready." I sat up, put my chest rig on, got my gun on, put my nods almost on my head, and they had breached the building. It was like that had happened. It was a very well-coordinated attack. A huge amount of Rust 4 guys invaded our building, and It was really cool. I died pretty much immediately. I got a few rounds off. I maybe traded a kill. I don't know. It was dark. I didn't have my nods on. But yeah, it was very fast. Rust 4 vacated the area momentarily, just enough time for us to get our stuff and hike out of there while they flooded back in. And this was a maneuver that was probably one of my favorites throughout the entire event. We rucked out to the Mets site, which was the easternmost village. From there, we dropped our rucks off, slept for 2 hours only, and set up a linear ambush. We had passed the field and into a wood line, and that's when the huge Rust 4 attack happened. A massive wave, essentially from what I could tell, the entire Rust 4 battalion, encroached upon the Mets site. Best news is, we were right across from that field, waiting for them to cross it. And when they did, man, we laid waste. We cleared through that entire field, pushing and eliminating as many Rust 4 and militia members as were left. And then, we set up another linear ambush on that exact same location, just at a 90-degree angle. Sure enough, another wave walked right into us. It was pretty gnarly if you ask me. They advanced to another couple of buildings on the outskirts of the city, so KVB and Robrag and TFM ended up eliminating those guys there, rushing to the other side to support the last attack, and it was over. That was the entirety of the Milsim West Black Sea Storm experience. At this segment, we're going to talk about my opinions and hit on some of the controversies. Just know that my thoughts and opinions are reflective of the Gear.Lockers alone. Does not reflect those of KVB, does not reflect those of any other member, so if you get upset about this, just, you know, it's just me. To say I had fun at this event was an understatement, but it's not without its faults. Some of the main contention points online, though, are that the rucking was absolutely absurd, and yeah, 6 miles with, I don't know how much I overpacked, but it must have been a 50-pound pack I had, and you did not need all that stuff at Milsim West. For some reason, whenever I carry that one kosher ruck for Greenside kit, I always overpack, and it sucked, but I made it the 6+ miles, no problem. Yeah, it was a mental game by the end of it, but it was all flat ground. It was muddy, sure, and that did suck, but there was no excuse to not be physically fit for at least a 6-mile ruck. However, I do know some units did ruck a lot more. Beco's initially was planned to be a 12-mile maneuver all throughout the night, making it to the ending by the morning. And to me, I think that's too much. Milsim West is a military simulation experience. It is an infantry experience. And everybody wants to be the high-speed guy that goes in, hits the target, and exfils. And truthfully, yeah, KVB does high-speed guy kit like that too. But this experience overall is not for that. That being said, though, I don't think Milsim West should be expecting people to do 12-mile maneuvers. I think for the average airsofter, that's gonna kill him. For the average Milsim West attendee, that's really rough. And when you get guys that are just crossing over from that airsoft to Milsim West experience, you're gonna lose a lot of people. And Milsim West is big enough where they can afford to lose some people by making the event strenuous. But I think something like that might be a little bit much. I was fine with our maneuver, and I think a lot of people should have been ready for the maneuver. But again, however long they actually did, it was a planned 12 miles. I don't think that was necessarily fair from Milsim West, and I would have appreciated seeing a little bit less on that front. The other point of contention with the rucking is the fact that Rust 4 had a very short infill for a lot of them. Again, this is only speaking from my experience, so only what I've heard, and it could be wrong. Correct me in the comments if I am wrong. But they started very close to the city. They rucked directly to it. They didn't have any crazy maneuvers, pushed through the city, picked their nice sleeping spots, and then advanced through the woods to hit us. Again, without rucks though. Which is why, while we were rucking 6 miles through the mud and rain, they were able to get to ambush positions. And I don't necessarily disagree with that setup of the event. But it did seem very one-sided in that NATO had to suffer through so much. And NATO is notorious for having a lot of drops. Meanwhile, Rust 4 got quick access to some dry land. I don't necessarily think that that was a bad thing again. In the design of the event, I loved being ambushed. Even though KVB was in the rear of the column and the front of it was clearing through those, we were able to support when we needed to. I just don't know if that was necessarily fair for the average attendee. The other thing that I think was relatively controversial for people was the cost. And I think Milsim West is a big pill to swallow with the cost in general. However, I think if we were on any of those other Georgia locations, especially given the marshy terrain, I don't know if I would have felt the cost was worth it as much. I'm a huge guy for mount facilities. I love them, and that's why I've been to so many of the Milsim West Super Bowls that have been at mount facilities. That's like my favorite thing about it. Getting to go to a cool venue that I otherwise wouldn't be able to, and experiencing the Milsim West infrastructure and world, that's awesome to me. So a baseline ticket of, I think I paid $300. I was one of the first waves to do it. I don't know, like, it's just, that's expensive for what it is. But given that we got the 75th Ranger site, I don't think that that was worth any less. In fact, I'm very happy with the price I paid for that event. But caveat, if it was anywhere else, I don't know if I would have felt the same. And this is all, again, my personal experience. If you are all for the Woods games, like, that's you, man. You can pay however much you want for that. But for me, I would have felt more value in a mount sight regardless of the price. And that's what we got, so I'm happy. Another point of contention that I want to hit on is hit calling. And this is notorious with any airsoft, whatever, it's gonna happen. But there are some videos and there is some claim with, oh man, this group didn't call their hits and I saw these grenades explode right above them and there's video evidence of it. And yeah, call those guys out where it's needed. Flat out, there's no excuses for lack of hit calling. But I think people got really, really upset about it in the moment, and they just gotta understand, just hit them a couple more times, and maybe it'll happen. If something is that serious where it's straight up countering the hit calling by not doing it, you're bound to get banned. I think it's just every time an event happens and there's contention over one specific location, like the police building, whoever was on the second floor or third floor, whatever, all the hit calling that happened there, like, yeah, dude, it sucks, and they're kind of screwy for not hit calling, but it's airsoft. You don't need to make it a whole personal battle. Now, the last thing that I kind of want to hit on, and again, I'm not defending Milsim West. I do take issue with some of the things that happened at this event and other events, but the last one is the overall environment and how people interacted with leadership. This was my second time going as squad leader because, again, with KVB, we usually have Dylan to follow, and he's always been squad leader since I joined. But again, this was the second time where he was not there, so I needed to step in, and I have no problem doing that. In fact, I love it. So for me, to see that so many people were complaining, like, I didn't even know who my cadre was, I didn't know who my platoon leader was, like, your squad leader should be taking care of that. Your squad leader should be the direct connection between you and the cadre or platoon leader. If you have an issue, like, yeah, go to cadre, but again, pass it up the chain. That's how the military works. And again, I've never served. I just am a LARPer. So one of the things that I made sure I did for my guys was always have a constant flow of communication. Whenever I got any information, immediately I gave it to them. Whenever they needed something, I immediately passed it up the chain. There wasn't any waiting or, oh yeah, when I see him, I see him. Like, your squad leader goes and gets that shit done. So for me, it's kind of a weird point when people are complaining that I don't know who this is or what this is. And yeah, maybe people could have more of a presence. Maybe the MSW staff could have more of a presence outside of just their circle and their cadre and the leadership. Like platoon-based meetings, I think would be really cool. When I do Bay events, that's what we do. We meet by squad, we meet by platoon, we meet by the company. So yes, while the face could be out there a little bit more, also understand that the hierarchy doesn't mean you have to see that face. It would be cool. Some of them are airsoft celebrities, whatever, but just trust the system. And now I want to get to one last section. That's what would I do differently? If I were in the shoes of hosting this event, which I'm definitely not, is there anything I would do that would maybe better the experience? And as I kind of mentioned, I think having a little bit more open communication with platoon leaders and having them at least say hi and introduce themselves to everybody might be helpful. I don't know how that happens because, again, as squad leader, I was very adamant that I'm going to find my platoon leader early on and go and talk to him, as well as find him at the end of the event. I think there maybe could be a little bit more structure for the average attendee because you got to think, a lot of these guys are local airsoft players. Some of them are coming from AMS, and it's a very different environment. So for them to come to a Super Bowl and kind of just not know what's going on, despite all the media and everything that's put out, it's kind of rough. The other thing that I would really kind of like to see going on with the Milsim West community, and not necessarily how the events are run, but just what goes on in general. I would love to see people take it less personally. As I mentioned with the hit calling, there are people that took it as like a personal attack on them. And yeah, it sucks when your grenades aren't getting called, or you got to dump 5 mags into a group of people for them to actually call anything. That's very frustrating, and I'm not condoning hit calling at all. A lot of people get really, really, really heated about it, and it's just a game, dude. Like, it's a Milsim experience, but we're using toy guns, and I don't mean to boil it down to that because truthfully, yeah, it is more than that. You got to put yourself in a realistic set of shoes here. So if you had issues with people, hopefully you smoothed it over, and otherwise, don't take it too personally. I don't mean to talk on my high horse. I just know I'd chop off the bratwurst of any KVB guy that does not call their hits. That's essentially an immediate ban for them. So police up your own guys, make sure they're doing the right thing, and sometimes that's the most you can do. But anyway, I really appreciate you guys checking out this video. Thank you for hanging on to the end. If you are, check out TGLequipment.com. Hard launch is going to be very soon. So thank you guys so much. This is the Gear Locker. See you guys at the next event.